Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Graces of Catholic Education podcast. My name is Maria Pardini, and today I'm thrilled to introduce Bill Gennaro, principal of my alma mater, Archbishop John Carroll High School in Radnor, Pennsylvania. A St. Joe's Prep graduate, Bill embodies the Jesuit charism of a man for others, a principle that has guided his journey at Carroll as a teacher, department chair, assistant principal, and now principal. Bill is pioneering the Archdiocese of Philadelphia's first high school peer mentorship program for students with intellectual disabilities. Bill's leadership has made Carroll a national model, drawing visitors from as far as Denver, Colorado. Also, through his collaboration with St. Katherine Day School, he ensures that all students at Carroll thrive spiritually, academically, and socially. Join us as we explore his inspiring journey, rooted in faith and a commitment to excellence. Let's get started. Hi, Philly faithful. My name is Maria Pardini, and welcome to the Graces of Catholic Education podcast, a place where grace shapes Catholic education one future saint at a time. The mission of this podcast is to build a faith-filled place for Philly's Catholic educators to share their faith, hear innovative practices for today's challenging classrooms, and be inspired by others who are tackling this wild and blessed ride of Catholic education. Join us as we explore the grace that guides us in forming the hearts and minds of Philly's future saints. Hi, Bill. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this today. I know you're busy, and I know it's summer, and you're getting all the things that you put off during the year done. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. You're very welcome. So let's start with a prayer, if that's okay with you. All right. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the gift of Bill and all he brings to my alma mater, Archbishop Carroll High School. Bless this conversation and bless Bill and all of the students of Archbishop Carroll as they rest up and gear up for another fun-filled year. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. All right, so we ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so we're going to start where we start all things in the Delco, Philly area. Where'd you go to grade school? Where'd you go to high school? Where'd you go to college? And where are you from?
Sounds good. So I am from Havertown, Pennsylvania. Born in Drexel Hill, grew up in Havertown. I'm the oldest of 7 kids in my family. So I was the only one of us that sort of made it through all 8 years at St. Denis before we shifted over into St. Bernadette's Parish and moved into a different house that could fit all of us. But yes, I graduated from St. Denis. I still am one of the people that struggle to refer to it as Cardinal John Foley Regional Elementary School.
Me too.
And I say that every time I go for a school visit there. After that, myself and my 2 younger brothers attended St. Joe's Prep. I'm a 2004 graduate of St. Joe's Prep. All 4 of my sisters attended Archbishop Carroll. So my one sister started at Mary Mercy and shifted over to here, and then all 3 of my other younger sisters followed her there. And then from there, I received my undergrad degree in communications with a minor in business studies from Temple University.
Okay.
And then went back and earned my teaching certification in English 7 to 12 at Westchester University. And then completed my master's degree in educational administration and leadership at St. Joe's University through the McGuire Fellows Program.
Oh, nice.
So it was very hard for a Temple University alum to set foot on a St. Joe's campus, but we figured out a way to make it work.
Well, you definitely had the backing of the prep. So, I mean, you were kind of entrenched in the Magis, and
the Jesuit connection was most certainly there. But when you come from an athletic side and you're dealing with what was at the time the Atlantic 10, those Temple and St. Joe's games are ones that you never miss.
Yes, that is definitely true. I totally agree with that. I was saying before we actually hit the record button that I feel like you and I have led parallel lives and we didn't even know it. I've known you for a couple of years, but I guess this is like really the first time where we've been able to sit down and have like a real conversation in the Philly type Delco. Like, where are you from? Where'd you go to grade school? Because I grew up right in Havertown too. So we really did leave. But you're you're like a baby. I'm probably old enough to be your mom. So
yeah, we were on the other side of Eagle Road, and we loved it over there and would have stayed there. But again, with 9 of us and all of the things that came with it, the twin that we built up and out on as much as we possibly could just couldn't hold us anymore. So we're actually fortunate enough to move into the house that my mom grew up in.
Oh my gosh, that's so Delco.
Yeah, right on the edge of still Havertown. It was 3 houses off a township line. And then my grandparents actually built the house next door. So my mom was one of 12. So their house had more than enough space to fit.
There you go. And I mean, I feel like you moved from one community kind of like to a similar community. Like you moved, St. Denis is tight knit, Havertown. And I feel like St. Barney's is like the other side of township line version of something like St. Denis.
And I was very fortunate. You're absolutely right, but I was very fortunate that most of my closest friends are ones that I didn't know in grade school.
Mm-hmm.
They attended St. Bernadette's, but then I attended high school at St. Joe's Prep with them. And there was a group of us that were about 10 or 11 of us that became very close and have sort of remained close from there. And then got involved there coaching in the CYO and coaching grade school football, and doing that with my dad and with my brother, and some of my other friends. So yeah, it was a great introduction into that community. It was also a great introduction. I really think into like sort of how most of my career in Catholic education, which has been all of it, has really been this idea of trying to give back and include most of those that are there. I mean, I think we both agree Catholic education is really, it's more of a vocation than it is anything.
Amen. Yeah, amen. I say that all the time. And I talked a little bit in the trailer episode about how Catholic education in the city of Philadelphia is really like a legacy. Mm-hmm. And then we're able to really pass that on from generation to generation. I don't think a lot of places have that. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's something that makes us unique, but it's just, it really is something to behold.
There are so few places, I think, and again, even going somewhere like Temple University where I had friends from all across the country and even overseas, right? You can ask a kid from the Philadelphia area, what parish you're from, and even if they're not Catholic, they're still going to be able to tell you.
They know.
But you ask that to a person from even somewhere, and even in probably Catholic, I think it's like in Massachusetts, like they still can't tell you that answer.
Exactly.
So they look at you very weird.
You're like, why would you even ask that? And we start every conversation like that. It's the thing that connects us.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. So you mentioned that you were a graduate of St. Joe's Prep, which is so awesome. I do love the prep. There's like a little special place in my heart for the prep. My older son was like so close to going there, and then he pulled the trigger on himself, and like he couldn't pull the trigger. He was like, I don't know. But I loved it. And one of the things that I loved, because he went to St. Aloysius, and St. Aloysius has that Jesuit philosophy about a man for others. So how did that being a man for others, the Magis, shape your approach to leadership? And are there like specific things that you like do now that you can relate back to that charism?
Certainly. I mean, my interest in teaching actually can go all the way back to my time at St. Joe's Prep. Going into my senior year, I was fortunate to be one of the students that could take one of the longer service trips and spend 10 days down in Rural Retreat, Virginia, which was an amazing experience and one that I still will tell stories up to this day. And then once I got out of the prep and then sort of shifted into college and into communications, like that's where I thought I always wanted to be. And then the opportunity popped up to apply to be part of the Prep's Alumni Service Corps.
Okay.
Which is a program where students can come back and work at the school for a year, usually teach, help out.
And that goes back to St. Joe's Prep, like yes. You work at the prep.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I applied and I didn't get it. But initially I was okay because I had a job lined up. I was prepared to defer the job for a year to work there and to do that and kind of give back to a school that had given me so much. But I wasn't prepared for, I guess, how disappointed I was in not being able to get into a classroom and not being able to work with students and stuff like that. So even as I went out into the working world, I think that kind of stayed with me. So when a few things changed from the financial situation in the country and people started to get laid off in like the 08, 09 range, it made making a shift into teaching a whole lot easier for me, to be able to go back and try and do something. Because it is that idea. I mean, the way that the prep refers to now is the idea of the men for and with others, right? I mean, we're working to help others. We're working to help students. Like none of what we do in education is truly for us.
Right.
I mean, even students that are in AP scores, they're not our scores. We're working to help other people succeed. So I think that's one of the biggest things I've taken from that.
That's awesome. So how do you kind of bring that Jesuit philosophy to a place that's a non-Jesuit school? Like Carroll is not, it's a Christian Brothers school traditionally, because when I went here, we had the girls' side and the boys' side, and this is the girls' side.
Correct.
So I spent a lot of time here on the girls' side. I still remember where my locker was. I'm trying to remember whose classroom this was, but I'd have to walk in here from a different way. I came in from the back door. So if I came in from the front, I might be able to remember whose classroom this was. But anyway, like, we were a Christian Brothers school, and which has their own wonderful charism. But how do you bring the charism of a men for others kind of into what you do here at Carroll?
Well, one of the things within that belief, I think at St. Joe's Prep, that gets so many people is it becomes a home for you.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is forced because you're at 17th and Girard, and very few kids are coming from 18th, 19th, 20th and Girard, North Philly. You're coming from all over.
Right.
But it truly does become a home because it's going to be a place that you spend for some of us more time there over 4 years than we're spending in our own house. So I think when I started here as a teacher, right, it was trying to make my classroom feel that way, trying to make my classroom feel like a place that students wanted to be in. Even if they weren't the biggest fan of something in English or in world history, they still looked forward to coming into that classroom for the day. And we found a way to make it enjoyable for them and collaborating with their classmates. And then when you step outside those four walls into administration, whether it was in working as disciplinarian or in academic affairs or now as a principal, it's that same idea, creating that space where students want to be. I say all the time, it's sort of our open houses and our different meetings with families and with students. I say, like, my hope is that wherever you end up choosing to go to school, you find a place that when you get up in the morning, you're looking forward to going there each day. You may not look forward to every single class that you have, but you're getting up and you say, yes, I am ready. I am excited to go there. Because if you have that belief, your opportunity for success is going to skyrocket.
Amen. So this is the only place you've worked in Catholic education, right? That is so cool. So kind of walk me through the different jobs that you had here. You started as a teacher.
So I started the Boys and Girls Rowing program.
Right.
So I started the Boys and Girls Rowing program here first in 20.
And you worked somewhere else, like you were doing something else. Okay.
So that was when I was still finishing my teaching certification.
Okay.
At Westchester. So that was, I think, 2012, 2013. I was doing that. I was finishing my teaching certification. I actually worked for a handful of years in the intake office of a drug and alcohol rehab center.
Oh.
So sort of have some experience or background in that world as well. Once I got my teaching certification, I spent 1 year doing 8th grade English and religion at Mary Mother of the Redeemer.
Oh, yeah. MMR. Yeah.
Had a blast out there. Fantastic group of teachers, fantastic administration.
Who was your principal?
Miss Denise Judge.
Yes.
Principal at that time.
She's still there. I think she retired, but she came back. And yeah.
So it was a place that I think really confirmed for me three things. One, I don't know that I would be able to teach anything younger than 8th grade, but I had a blast with the kids I had. Two, that teaching is what I wanted to do. Because again, you talk about that feeling for the students. I had that feeling every day. Even though the drive from Havertown to Lansdale was a bit bit.
Yeah.
I did not dread it at any single point.
That's awesome.
And then I think it really affirmed my belief that being in Catholic education is what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. So I was there for a year when a teaching position opened up here at Carroll. So I was teaching English and social studies for a couple of years while still coaching. I spent a couple of years as the head of the English department, as the department chairperson, then shifted over for 1 year as disciplinarian.
Oh, boy.
So not my favorite job in the world. It's a thankless job, just as many jobs in education can be.
Yeah.
But
we have to change the name of that. We got to change the title of that job. We have to do it.
I love referring to it as assistant principal for student services because then it's only one part of the job. And then from there, a couple years as the assistant principal for academic affairs. And then this upcoming school year, 25-26, will be my 6th graduating class as principal. So
so you've taken the babies and you've made them into young adults.
Yep. So I took over as principal in November of 2020. on an interim role. Nothing like being thrown to the fire in the middle of a global pandemic.
Oh, right. Well, that's
and then
always interesting.
assumed it full time at the end of that June.
Okay. So, it's so funny. I do this episode like every, I don't know, like 5 or 6 episodes. I call it the Philly Faith Legends. And so the Philly Faith Legends is like an episode of people that I put on there that just exude Catholic education, but they have had to have been in it for their entire career. So they're like at the tail end of, their Catholic education career. And I bring them in and have them talk about Catholic education. So the first guest, it hasn't aired yet, but as we are talking, the first guest on that was Barry Kirsch. Because when I think of Catholic education, I think of Barry Kirsch. Like he was the staple of this school for 52 years. And I have a feeling that you might be a Philly Faith legend in 20 years when I'm still doing this podcast from a nursing home.
There's something about being able to the place you work, being able to sort of share and express your faith in the work that you do. And I think the students here make it incredibly rewarding for someone like Mr. Kirsch, or someone like Mr. Joe Dowd, who was here for quite a while, or someone like Mr. Bill Hauber or Sister Mariana Theo that was here for a number of years, to be able to want to be in one place for that period of time. And I think there are a number of teachers that have been here for 10, 15, 25 years currently. The same thing. They are the teachers that the students trust the most when it comes to building not just their education, but their faith life as well.
Amen. Yes. I can't say enough about Mr. Kirsch. His Hall of Fame speech that I link in the bottom of in the show notes of his podcast airing is just it's just so empowering. It's just, it is Catholic education. So I want to talk to you. I want to switch gears and talk to you about how we got to know each other through the Rising Together Alliance. And so, for the people that might not know, the Rising Together Alliance is an organization that was established within the Archdiocese of Philadelphia to help bring students with intellectual disabilities into our regular Catholic education schools. So what kind of inspired Carroll to become a Rising Together Alliance school? And how did your leadership over the time that Michael has been here, how did that work with inclusive education? I mean, that was a big undertaking for you guys. So kind of tell me the story of the Rising Together Alliance and Michael and all the good things that happen with Michael. Because I know there are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when we started, what Rising Together Alliance wasn't even in the purview of the forefront of my mind, right? It was more so looking at a student and seeing if that student could fit in our community as a full-time student. So at the time, I want to believe it was 2021 in my first full year in this role, 2020, 2021, where I received a call from the superintendent at the time, Sister Maureen McDermott. And
God rest her soul.
Yes. And when the phone rang, I saw Sister Satan. You see the name of the person you're going to answer. So I answered. I believe I was down in the cafeteria, and Sister said to Bill, I want to talk to you about an applicant of a student that was applying to your school, and I don't know if you've seen it or not yet. And me only being a couple months into this role, reviewing all the applications for the admissions office was not something that was yet on my radar as I'm drinking from the fire hose trying to figure everything out. But I said, sure, I'd be happy to talk. I said, I'm available this afternoon. I said, you want to do a phone or come in? She goes, I'll stop over and come in. I said, great. I said, well, let me know when you're coming in. And then there was a pause, and she goes, well, I'm in your office right now.
That is so Sister Maureen.
So at that point in time, I just said, all right,
well, we're talking now.
Got someone to cover the cafeteria, and I came on upstairs. And she shared that someone had applied and said maybe this school wasn't the right fit and things along those lines. And I said, well, nothing that I had seen. So if there's someone you would like me to relook at or look over, I'm more than happy to do so. And at that point in time, sort of then connected me to Michael Schuller's application, to his mother, to the family, and things along those lines. And if you were to look at the initial application, well, yes, on the surface, right, this might not have been a student in the past whose needs we could have met, just because from a resource standpoint, they probably wouldn't have been there. But as I took a look at it, it was one of those things that I was more than willing to, we're going to have a conversation, we're going to meet, we're going to talk, and let's talk about what we might.
We're just not going to say no right away.
Correct.
And I think that's a really important lesson for people who are listening to this, who might be considering something like that, because that's something that I try and say to people in my job all the time. Let's just not say no right away. Because when we say no initially, so many things go bad so quickly. So thank God that you had that philosophy.
And all, to all credit, though, to the people that were working in admissions at the time, putting everything together, because even though they may not have felt that this specific application may not have met for here, they still did the work of making sure we gathered everything that we needed.
Right.
So that if something came down where I was going to review it or someone else was going to review it or another school was going to review it in that school admin portal, everything was going to be there for us to be able to consider and look at it. So
I think it's important that we get the message out, like, to everybody who is in that position. Like, let's just not say no. We might eventually say, we can't do this right now. We might be able to say that, but let's just not say it right away. Like, let's wait.
It's sort of the converse of, like, in the field and the area of, like, inclusive education, right? Like, all it takes is someone to just say yes.
Right.
But I've heard through some of the presentations and talks and things like that I've gone to and sat through in conferences that, like, you want to be able to say yes.
Absolutely.
But you need to make sure you have in place what you need to make sure that you can support.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I think that's kind of what we were looking at. Because, again, at the time, full transparency, my teaching certification from Westchester, I was one of the last years where the PA State Cert did not require any courses in special education. So for me, right, coming in here, like, the idea of having a student need extra time or things along those lines, not a concern. I knew I could manage and work through things like that as an educator. I had a child, Rebecca Weber, who was legally blind in my class from the moment I started. So I knew how to navigate certain things. But navigating someone with more of a severe intellectual disability might have been a challenge. So I wanted to sit down and have that conversation and see, because in many people's heads, we are grateful to have St. Catherine's Day School in this building for special education. But I wanted to take a look and see what the difference was. Yeah. How is this going to be different than what maybe St. Catherine's offered?
And it's a big difference. Yeah, it's a big difference. So Michael came. Yes, Michael came to Carroll as a student with an intellectual disability. Michael has Down syndrome. And what was it like? Like, what was the, how did you get a teacher to, you have to get buy-in. Like, let's be honest, not everybody is just like opening the doors, unfortunately, and saying, come on in, which we would all love to think that they are, but not everybody has that. And I think a lot of the times, my experience is, a lot of teachers are not willing, but I think they're just afraid. They're afraid they're not going to be enough. They're afraid they don't know enough. They're afraid that they're just afraid. And it comes out sometimes as not being afraid. Like, it comes out that that's not what it looks like. But I think inherently, I'd like to believe that it is that they're just afraid. So how did you get them on board?
Well, I mean, this whole process was one that took a few months, right? So if the school year starts in September, I want to say it was February, March, when started having these conversations with Mrs. Schuller, and then making a visit over to St. Catherine's of Siena and Wayne, where Michael was attending school. And really observing him in there first. And that was sort of what
because he had been there since second grade. Yeah.
And in my mind, I wasn't going to say yes until I could see Michael in the educational atmosphere. Did I think academically we could try and figure things out? Certainly. But I needed to see Michael and how he worked on a day-to-day basis in school to see how this would shape. So I spent a handful of hours, about a half day over at St. Catherine's, met and asked the principal at the time, Bud Tosti, a whole lot of questions, and spent a whole lot of time taking notes and observing and things along those lines. And then when I came back, it was then, all right, what's the next step? And it was kind of twofold. One was, Yes, teachers getting on board was going to need to be essential because they're going to need to be on board for 4 consecutive years. But then it was also, how are we going to navigate Michael's support during the day?
Yeah.
Because a one-to-one adult probably wasn't going to be in the cards. So we had to start thinking about that as well. But when we focused on the teachers, my first thought was then, all right, thinking practically at what a regular freshman's roster looks like, let's start going through the classes and who are the teachers that generally teach some of these courses. So almost hypothetically building out his roster. And then it was having some one-on-one conversations with some of those teachers and basically be like, hey, this might be something that's coming. What are your thoughts? What are your questions? And we took that individually with about 5, 6, 7 different teachers, and then some other teachers within the school that I thought would be very supportive of this and could be vocal support for me with the larger group of teachers. From there, we shared it at a faculty meeting with everybody, and I just kind of opened the floor to let them fire away and ask questions.
Yep.
And I sort of ended that faculty meeting with the idea of, if you have an interest in this, kind of let me know. I eventually shifted that because near the end of the school year, teachers are just going through the motions and want to get done and see their kids' success and get their summer started. So we kind of changed that from, if you're in, let me know, to we're doing this. And if you're out, let me know.
Oh, good.
And still got no response back on the if you're out.
Yeah.
But by opening the form to all of my teachers, I was able to sort of then read the room as I'm looking forward in Michael's 4 years of education on where we could provide him with the best supports. So that was a bit of a challenge, but it was one that I think went very well. And I think it's to the credit of having been here for a number of years.
There was a trust.
I don't know that if you step in as an administrator to a school and this is the first thing you try and do in year one, you may be met with just some general pushback, but just from that idea, you said, Maria, of fear.
Yeah.
Right. And then that lack of trust in you. So we were able to go ahead and do that and sort of put that together. And then it became talking to other schools, connecting with a number of people from down in the Diocese of Arlington, where those schools have done this very successfully. Connecting with some people out of the School of Michigan that had done this for a couple of years and really trying just to get the feel for how they did things. And then processing, all right, in our school environment, how would this work? And ultimately, that would be how creating our peer mentors came to be.
Right. And that's exactly, thank you for leading me into that peer mentorship, because that's really the ticket that I think other places, and you have really found, is the ticket to making this work at the secondary level. Because it does work differently at the elementary a lot of things work differently at elementary and to secondary, obviously. But for the secondary ticket, that's kind of how it goes with the peer mentorship. So talk to me a little bit about the peer mentorship program and how that works.
So we took a framework from it, from Bishop O'Connell High School down in Arlington, Virginia. And I spend a lot of time and still spend a lot of time collaborating with Miss Mary Damaris, who's been a huge help and support to us as we've gotten this off the ground and running. But basically what we looked to do was to find 7 or 8 students, one that could travel to each class with Michael, and help and support him in the class in whatever way might be needed. So
basically what you decided is that you're not going to put one person with Michael all day long. You're going to actually use a high school student and they're going to go to each class. So it's all different. Each class has a different high school student with Michael in the class.
Correct. And I think we'll talk more about it. The benefit to that, I guess, also becomes from the social aspect of things, because it is, even though at this point there would have been an age gap of about 3 years, right?
Right.
There is the peer aspect of it, right? And it builds a lot of that social interaction that sometimes students crave or sometimes students need that they wouldn't necessarily get with a one-to-one adult. So that was the idea in the framework. And we were able to build it out from some of our work with St. Katherine Day School. For the last number of years, we've had a course there called Principles of the Exceptional Learner, where students will spend a class period up with St. Catherine's, helping the students, working with the students, hanging out with them, helping the teachers in whatever way they might need. And then those students complete journal entries, do a couple of papers and writing assignments, and they receive a grade for it. So I kind of just took that model and adjusted it a little bit. And I mean, kind of plussed it up a little bit, if you will, because there was going to be more responsibility here than there was anywhere else. So the idea was that these students would go to one class with Michael. They would update a spreadsheet on a daily basis that Michael's parents would have access to. In general, just summarizing what went on in the class and if there was any homework, almost like a virtual agenda book that they were providing as that extra sort of level of support. In the classroom, it depended on the class. So Michael was very strong in math. So it was kind of guiding on the structure of the classroom, and then he could handle a lot of the math himself. Michael's got a phenomenal background in the Catholic faith and in religion. So theology was kind of more of the same thing. And then other courses, it might have been a little more of a challenge when it came to like a reading class in English or even in biology and things along those lines. But they kind of worked as that go-between Michael and the teacher as he got acclimated to everything and what was going on. And then those students would then do discussion posts. They would do research papers and other assignments throughout the school year to earn their grade for this class. So on paper, it sounds great. The challenge was then going to be, who are these students? And again, I think as an administrator, your experience in knowing your student body really comes in handy. And the year prior to Michael coming was my last year teaching junior AP English, AP Language and Composition. So at least from an academic standpoint, I had 34 kids in front of me that were some of the more higher ranking kids in the class. So in my head, I'm like, well, let's start here. I had a bunch of students that I knew, a bunch of students how I knew how they worked, and I felt like that was the right place to begin. And then we expanded it out to the rest of the junior class in phases, anticipating that first year my peers were all going to be seniors. And we tried to make the criteria that they would have taken the class before, and we succeeded in almost all aspects of that.
Right, because the peer mentor is not a member of the actual class that Michael is in.
At that point in time, they were not.
Right,
We've started to see a little bit of a shift in that.
Okay.
And with Michael's senior year, we're going to see a big shift in that.
Yeah.
But that was kind of where we wanted to go. And in my mind, when we said yes to Mrs. Schuller, I said, I believe we can do this. And I said, it's not going to be perfect. And there are going to be bumps in the road as we go, but we are willing to give this a shot because we think Michael can be a member of our school community. In the back of my head, though, when I'm looking at these students coming in, I'm like, this part can't fail. I can't go wrong with these kids. And so we navigated that. We ended up picking out the students. And we found a great group of kids to be that first group of kids, which was awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. And so I want to talk for a little bit about the end project of these peer mentors, because for me, and I think for people that aren't involved like in the trenches on a daily basis here, that is just such an impactful night. And even for the people that are in the trenches, I think it's good for them to be able to take a step back and think, oh my gosh, like I was involved in this every single day. And like, look what we created here with Michael and with the rest of the school. So tell me because you taught the class, like you were the teacher of that class,
correct,
right? So you named the peer mentorship program had a class name and you taught it.
Yeah.
And so your final project was?
So there were two projects at the end of the year, and it was mainly about the idea of the students sharing what they've done with those around them that are most important to them. So the third quarter major project was doing course selection, where the students were then required to go take 5 minutes and head into an English class and present on the class, almost advertising for the next year's peer mentors. So they did that, and that first year, only having 7 or 8 kids, they had to present in like 3 different classes. But they went through and they did that. And I thought this was a great idea. It was a great project to be their major project. But then some of what was getting out of there was very, very much more than I expected. We had one girl who was near the top of her class and was the type of student that wanted the A's on everything. Was her and her twin sister were 1 and 2 in the class, their senior year. But when she presented on it that year, she said in front of the class that this was the first class that I did not worry about what the grade on the report card was going to be. She's like, I knew I was going to do the work and I knew I would get the grade that I earned. She goes, but it was far more important to ensure Michael's success than my own. And it was her own English teacher that was in the class listening to that. So to hear that, and I had taught her as well, was kind of taken aback. But then I wanted to do something to wrap this up. So their final project, I didn't want it to be an exam. There was no real exam. This is kind of a self-study course.
Right.
So the decision was that the 8 of them were going to do a presentation together. And each of them was going to receive a chunk of a topic. Anything from what are the peer mentors to backgrounds in special education to what they do on a daily basis to a number of other different things. And then their own individual experiences. So that, and then we invited members of the Office of Catholic Education.
Mm-hmm.
We invited their parents and their siblings and their family members and some of their friends. Some of the teachers from Carroll were there as well. And other people that were connected through this, which also would have been some of the members of the Rising Together Alliance.
Right.
And they presented for about 45 minutes on what they did.
And it starts with Mass, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It begins with Mass.
I love that.
We did the presentation. We did a little bit of a question and answer that night. And then from there, we wrapped up with a dinner for everybody.
Yeah.
And it was impressive to watch them just talk, not necessarily off note cards. They had a PowerPoint slide, but it was more just them talking about what they experienced and things like that. And I could not have been prouder of them, and have seen some of them come back to the presentations since.
Yeah.
Now, since we've done it now for 3 years, we did the same thing in year 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expanded a little bit more because one of our students from St. Catherine's, Samir, took an art class during Michael's sophomore year. So he had a peer as well. So we folded in another student. I think we had 9 or 10 that year that were working with it. And then when we got to this year, now having 2 full-time students in Michael and Mia, we now had like 17 peers. And I'm like, nobody, as much as I love these kids, nobody needs to sit through a 17-person PowerPoint. So we kind of changed it to a day in the life.
Yeah.
So again, beginning with Mass. And then while we didn't make all the guests and family members walk Michael and Mia's full roster.
Oh, we were walking.
We did sit them up in a closer setting.
Yeah. I felt like it was 1988 again.
So we set each peer up in a classroom. And each of them almost gave like a pseudo back to school night presentation at a trifold. And they talked for 5 or 6 minutes about what they did in the class and their own experiences. And they had some guiding principles on that. And family members just went through a day in the life of Michael, a day in the life of Mia, but a day in the life of these peers as well.
Yeah.
So they could share in the work that they're doing.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I mean, and one of the themes that kept coming through in every year that I've been blessed to be a part of the presentations is that the peer mentors say over and over and over again how much they and the rest of the students, the regular education students, got out of the presence of this program is way more than what anybody ever imagined.
You're absolutely right. And that's one of the things that even Mrs. Schuller said from the jump of this and that I've heard in different presentations and speakers over the last 3-4 years. But when I first met with Mr. Tosti over at St. Catherine's, he joked that like for the first couple of years, it was like Michael was the mayor of St. Catherine's. Walking through those halls, everyone knew him. Everyone was saying hello. And not that it wasn't special treatment, but it was like Michael was unique in the sense of who he was, right in that school. And I thought that was awesome. But at the same time, in a school of almost 700, like, while I wanted everyone to know who Michael was and I want the support of the whole school community on this, I also wanted Michael just to be a student. Mm-hmm. And by the time we were halfway through that first year, you started to see that where Michael was just another student. I mean, he stepped in on his own and wanted to try wrestling. He made friends with a bunch of the guys on the football team through his peer mentors. Found his way to different events and things along those lines with the help of his peers. And he ultimately just became another student. And I've seen more and more of that growth. Even though it's not always linear. Yeah. You've seen more and more of that growth over the last 3 years. Yeah. With him as well.
It's so cool. So then when the opportunity came for Mia, was it easier to say yes? Like, was it easier because you had the experience and you knew it worked and the program was kind of already here?
In a way, I'd say yes and no, right? Because, yes, the program was already here. So we had a framework that we could build off of. But much like any student in this building, as you go to roster a student, right, that child's going to be different.
Yep.
So I'll give you this example. Michael excels in mathematics. He has been a phenomenal student in math classes his entire time here, but there wasn't quite an elective for him to latch on. So we've tried a couple other things. He's done a couple Fitness for Life. He did a computer course in the beginning of in his freshman year and things like that. So we've tried some different things. With Mia, when I started reviewing everything, I knew the elective wasn't going to be an issue. She had a beautiful voice, she's a beautiful singer, and I knew she would be a part of our choir. And that was going to check a box that I didn't have checked when we started everything with Michael. And then to a benefit and to more of a challenge, we had more questions we were ready to ask.
Right.
There's also a process to go through. We were fortunate when this started through the Archdiocese to get some help from the Ambassadors Fund for Catholic Education to...
we plug the Ambassadors Fund for Catholic Education on here all the time. That's part of what the name of the podcast has to do with. And
so they were great in providing funding to sort of start some professional development for our faculty, but also to bring in an inclusion facilitator. And that's something that has since been absorbed into the budget here at Archbishop Carroll. We could not have done it without them.
Right.
But we didn't really have one the first year because it was hard to find somebody that could do what we were looking for and what ended up being shorter notice. But we've now had Miss Kate Twilley here for the last 2 years. So when it came time for considering Mia, it was interesting first is Mia didn't necessarily come through the RTA. She was not in a Catholic grade school.
Correct.
She was at, I believe, Pierce Middle School in Westchester.
Yeah.
So, but through connections with the Schuller family and everybody else, she came to us. She wanted to attend 7th grade visitation day as a 7th grader. We brought her in. I matched her up with some of the peer mentors that I was already using since Michael wasn't in classes that day. We kind of pulled double duty and set her up. She went through a true shadow day here, just like any other Carroll applicant would. And again, using the knowledge of my students, I paired her up with a freshman that I thought would be great for her, who then in turn became one of her peer mentors as a sophomore during Mia's freshman year. And then we went to visit Mia. We observed her. We met with some of the people over at the school. We asked questions about some of the documentations and things along those lines just to get a good picture of who she was when she was coming in. And again, said the same thing to her parents, this idea that like, we have this program, we take pride in it, we truly expect it to want it and expect it to be successful, but I can't promise you it's going to always be perfect. There's still a lot that we need to work on here, even after 3 years. The classroom aspect of things, I think we've got down pat. And now it's how do we expand it out in some of our extracurriculars?
Yeah. So tell me about the challenge. Like, what do you think some of the biggest challenges were and are? Because, you know, it's not all like sunshine and roses. Like there's real work that gets done every day and it's a process and it's not always easy.
So from in the classroom, I mean, the modification of some of the work has been some of the biggest challenge for us. And Kate Twilley has done an amazing job in being that liaison for the teachers and building that extra level of trust. So her classroom is right next to mine. And the teachers will stop in there every single day to work with her and things like that. And we've now seen something accomplished that we were hoping, that some of the modifications that are being made for Michael and Mia are also now being worked on for some of the other students in those classrooms. So that's been a huge step for us. Which
a lot of light bulbs. Like, oh, I can do that. I find that all the time. Like when I say something and the teacher's like, "You mean I can do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, you can do that."
Yeah. And then I think one of the go back to talking about the idea of some of the teachers, maybe their fear, right, in working with students. Every teacher that I have asked to work with Michael and Mia has welcomed them with open arms. But I think, and this would be my challenge as well as a teacher, sometimes you struggle to separate the idea of success from the content that you're expected or needing to teach in the classroom. And there are certain subject areas where Michael and Mia just aren't going to need or get some of the content. But in reality, there are plenty of kids that are going through a class and not need or get some of the content they're needing. If you went back and asked the 6 years of AP English students I taught, how many of them remembered the details of the Scarlet Letter or Ethan Frome, they're going to laugh at you. but they took something else out of that from a writing aspect or something along those lines. So that has been it will be an ongoing challenge as more and more teachers take this on.
I think that is so important. Like if there was a light bulb moment of the conversation that we've just had, that would be it. Like I think that is so, I hope when I put this through my AI and I get a clip, that's the clip I get, because I think that's so important for teachers to actually hear and understand that there's plenty of students that aren't going to get all of the stuff that you're teaching, regardless of whether or not you had a kid in your class with an intellectual disability. It's, or even a learning disability. Like it's, they have this mentality that's like, and God bless them for it, because it's part of what makes them really good teachers. They're so focused on the content, and they should be focused on the content, but it can't be at the detriment of like not letting other people in. Like that's so important.
The idea of, I mean, I've said it more and more recently in the last couple of months, but like the idea of like transactional education or transactional teaching versus like relationship-based education or relationship-based teaching. I mean, history would show you that like transactional education was sort of the way that things went. A teacher gave you information, you processed it, you regurgitated it back to you, they gave you a grade, and that was kind of it. And you kind of went through that process. But more and more, the needs of our students, whether they be a Michael or a Mia or just any other student that applies to come into one of our 15 high schools, right? You need to work to build that professional relationship and rapport with the student, because that will get you more of their attention, more of their respect as you go through. It doesn't mean you become their friend. That's not what you are. But you need to break down some of that barrier that exists so they can build that trust with you to come to you when they need help and they need support.
Yeah, so kids are so much more engaged. You know, I think the key to learning is being engaged in it. And they're so much more engaged with people that they know really, that they believe have a vested interest in them. And that's what Mr. Kirsch talked about in one of his moments in the podcast. He really talked about that. And it's just so true. And I think it's like so overlooked. And there's not a teacher prep course in that. You know, you don't learn that in undergrad education, which you probably should. It might save people like a lot of time. So maybe that's another job for you. If you'd like to hop on the other job bag bandwagon.
Many of our applications just list other duties as assigned.
Exactly.
So, but no, that was a big challenge. And one of our ongoing challenges is really just this idea of how do we now expand it outside the classroom? You see other challenges when you get to high school, right? A lot of your athletics or a lot of your activities or like a theater program or a sports team, right? Or those activities that have those like almost everyday practices and things like those almost year round, like it's at a different level.
Yeah.
So the challenge is how you still want to be able to incorporate this idea of inclusion into everything, but how do you do so within that and make it authentic?
Right.
And I think that takes more time, because I also believe that takes more resources to be able to do. In a classroom, right, we're paying for teachers to be here. The teachers are here some are here 24/7, right?
Yeah.
Here every day. But when it comes to those other activities and other athletics, many of those people aren't full-time employees. So you're navigating that extra level, that extra hurdle to go over. And many of our people are phenomenal. And I think a lot of people that are involved in our theater program with Mia, a lot of people that are involved in the wrestling program with Michael, have done a great job in trying to build that in. None of it's perfect. It can always be better.
Right.
But it's just constantly looking for what those opportunities are.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. Father DeLacy and I were talking yesterday about how one of the things that came up is that we need to do a really good job of making sure our coaches know that they are missionary disciples as well as the teachers. Our teachers know that. They know that it's expected of them. And most of our coaches know that too. But every once in a while, there's something in there that doesn't, for whatever reason, it's just not as a parent. If you don't work full time in the school, you don't come to our professional developments as a coach. Like you don't do that. So I think it's really important that our coaches understand that they are an extension of Catholic education. And
sometimes though, again, it goes back to that fear of the unknown.
Yes.
where
they're just coaches.
Yeah,
Some of them aren't even educators.
they're coaches, and so many of our coaches are those resources for our students.
Yeah.
They become the ones that are most influential on them when they leave here. I mean, I could run down the list of my own teachers and coaches, and I could cite them and the ones that have sort of what I've taken from different places to be merge my own ideas and ideals. But it's that fear of the unknown sometimes.
Yeah.
They're not versed in the education background. So while, yes, they may want to help, they don't know how to do it, because just like a teacher's job is sometimes that curriculum and they have to cover that. Their job is preparing these games, trying to earn a spot in the playoffs, and trying to do these other things that are seen as traditional levels of success.
Yeah, I can totally see why that would be a challenge. So that was 11:15. That is my Lily Walker prayer to Father Atkinson. So it has gone off several times during each podcast. So all I'd say is that we'll just take a quick little minute to say, Father Atkinson, pray for us. And now we can continue on, because 11:15 a.m. and p.m. I say a prayer for Father Atkinson for Lily Walker. So for her miracle. So anyway, so that we can just keep going. So I so appreciate. And now, you know what's funny is, not funny, but I think it's awesome. Like, you are nationally recognized now. You hosted visitors from the Diocese of Denver. Thank you very much for that. And so, like, people are looking to Carroll now as, kind of like an expert. Like, you looked at the Diocese of Arlington, and now people are looking at the at the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, at Carroll in particular, to kind of be the beacon of how we do this. And we don't always get it right. Like, we don't. But sometimes you just have to say, yes, we have as many answers as we possibly can, and we're going to chalk this up to God, and God's going to take care of it.
Yep. And I think, again, one of the stats that we always throw around is the idea that, like, and I hope the number continues to grow and the stat changes, but we're one of only 3% of Catholic high schools in the country that have a program like this.
Yeah.
But in speaking with someone like the Diocese of Denver, it's this idea of, like, here's what we do. And I just want them to ask questions. It's much like this conversation here. If you ask questions, I'll tell you stories.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how we did things, right? Because, again, it's not going to be perfect. And you're talking to an administrator that said yes to this without a special ed cert and without a full background in special education, but in a desire to help students. So in speaking with them, the conversations have been great. And then I see them taking what we're doing and trying to model theirs. For example, we have a traditional 8-period school day. Theirs is more on a block scheduling standpoint. So they will need to figure out how to navigate that when the kids are switching classes at the end of the semester and things along those lines. So I think there's more that I can share now that I could have 2 years ago.
Right, of course.
And I'm always willing to have those conversations and be that support and point them in the direction of what's worked and where those challenges are.
Yeah. I mean, just from somebody who's been in special education their entire career, and who's been me, I got my job in 1996 because this public school I was working at was doing inclusion, whatever that meant. But I can't say enough about the fact that I'm inspired by your attitude and your willingness, and just the fact that you were like, yeah, we're going to do this. We answered as many questions as we possibly can. There's a lot we don't know, but we're going to do this because I believe you believe that this is what we are actually really called to do. And I think that is, like, commendable.
Thank you. And in an ideal world, more students end up at Archbishop Carroll that need these supports, right? I mean, we're in the process right now of just growing our general academic support program, right? And we now have we're back to 2 staff members in there. So we have over 80 students that have general academic accommodations. But if more students like Michael and Mia come along that we do feel that our school community can support, that their experience is going to look different, and not necessarily a good way, a bad way, but whatever. But that, like, what Michael has experienced is different than what Mia is going to experience.
Right.
And what Mia is experiencing is going to be different than what the next student is experiencing, because students will have different needs. The expectation of us is that we are going to be able to support them from an academic standpoint to the best of our ability. Because first and foremost, we are a school. So even though there are going to be plenty of modifications made and there are other things that students like Michael and Mia need to prepare for their next steps after Archbishop Carroll, that's kind of where we put a lot of our focus first. And then we'll branch out from there as we go.
Yeah. So tell me what else Carroll has to offer. Give me, your elevator pitch about my alma mater and why somebody who doesn't have an intellectual disability child would send their kid to Carroll. Like, what do we have here?
I really believe that over the next year to 3 years, we are on the cusp of really transforming this campus, which is a beautiful 55-acre campus as it is.
Amen. Yes, it is.
Into something that everybody is going to want to see. So first and foremost, this August, we will be opening up the Connolly Wellness Center.
Oh, I did not know that.
That was the Curley Family Library. Many of our academic resources from a library standpoint are now digital. So those are all still available to students, but they're electronic. So the 8,000 square feet or so of space that was the library will become the Connolly Wellness Center. It's an idea that Dr. Scott started and that we've sort of worked to sort of frame out and build that will create a literal and figurative wraparound approach to services for students. So within that space, you're going to have the guidance department. You're going to have the academic support team. You're going to have the assistant principal for student services, because all of these are student services. You're going to have IT in there as well. Part of that is because the server room can't move. It's right next to it. But at the same time, it's another service that all of our students are going to need.
Right.
And then while campus ministry will still have their own office, there is a space in there that they will be able to use whenever they need it. So if we're talking about services that all of our students need outside of what they receive in their classroom, academic supports, guidance supports, which also builds in college counseling, building on student services supports, technology, and of course, our faith. It's all going to be...
Because it's right across the hallway from the chapel. Yes.
So when you look at Archbishop Carroll from above, the three things that run right down the middle that separated it when it was a boys and girls school, separate, was the chapel, the library, and the auditorium. So that space is going to open in August. And we are now working on building out programming for the students, utilizing programming such as like our partners from Minding Your Mind, who we've used over the years to present to our students to maybe come in and do more. Probably see more of the Culture Project in here as well from the Archdiocese, and now they having a space to be able to meet with students and things like that. We already do a lot of work with Live Vertical. And Catholic Athletes for Christ. So I know
Live Vertical is going to be a podcast guest.
So talk about a lot of the faith piece in there becomes a big component of this, but really it just becomes a place the students can see that ultimately will be theirs once we figure out how the larger central space will get used. But
I love that.
College presentations, things like that. That's step one. We're on the doorstep of hopefully transforming what was the back football field into a turf field. And that would be the next step. And then the final step, hopefully, will be taking the auditorium from the top down and renovating that as well.
You mean the wooden seats that I sat in 1984 when I came here, and we think we should change them?
Exactly. But in all aspects, right? If you're looking at the idea of student wellness, right? Wellness goes beyond just academic support. It goes beyond just getting mental health support from a counselor. It's, again, that idea that when a student is coming here, they're looking forward to every aspect of what they're doing here. And that is the classroom. That is those other supports in the Connolly Wellness Center. That is whatever takes place on that field. That could be whatever takes place on that stage. So I think if all of that comes together, and we are well on our way, we're really going to see a unique offering in the Archdiocese.
I love it. I'm so excited about that. I did not know. I'm so glad I asked that question. It wasn't even on my list of things to say, but I'm glad I asked that. Because if there's any alumni out there who would like to donate, we will put to all of that whole project, we will put the link to donate on the bottom in the show notes. So feel free to make a donation. So tell me, what do you think? We'll wrap it up. I do want to talk about your personal life for a little bit, because I want to make sure you plug your kids and your wife. But what do you think your biggest accomplishment has been at Carroll so far?
I mean, we spent so much time talking about the peer mentoring program in this, and because it's so unique,
Mhm.
I mean, you could say something as individual as that, but I think my leadership style as an administrator is fostering and building the trust in the people that I work with.
Mm.
As I said, I've taken so much from those that I've worked with, and you go back, whether it's a teacher that I had at St. Joe's Prep, like a Mr. Jerry Taylor, whether it's some of the coaches I had over the years, like a Gil Brooks or a Bill Lamb or a Dr. Gavin White in rowing and in football in combination, or some of the administrators that I've worked with here, or
Mhm.
some of the teachers. I mentioned Bill Hub earlier. You mentioned Barry Kirsch. Working with Dr. Allison Vinci here for a number of years, and even previous principals and presidents, like taking different aspects of that to build out that I want to be able to trust the people I work with
Mhm.
and let them do what they're really good at. And then we're going to sprinkle in the other things that we can make this a little bit better. And I think trying to create that environment of trust with everybody, while I can't take credit for all of it, it's just something that I'm proud of seeing that exists here, with the teachers, with the staff, with the students, most especially, because that's the reason they're coming here.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know before we started this podcast, you had a student come in who actually is not returning for various reasons, I'm sure. But I loved how the fact that you were like, you know what, before I start with you, I wanna say goodbye to her. I wanna let her know the last message that she heard from you was, if you ever need me, I'm here for you.
Yep.
And I think that exemplifies what you have created here.
It was the last thing we said in our graduation speech to our seniors before we conferred their diplomas. Like, this has been your home for your last 4 years. It still can be, and it still
Yep.
will be. We know you're going to have a number of other different competing priorities outside of here. But if we did our job of helping them grow academically, helping them grow socially, and most importantly, helping them grow spiritually in their faith, that place still exists.
Yeah.
And you still see some of it. Some of our teachers and our campus minister host something almost every Wednesday night called Genesis, which is sort of guided prayer and adoration.
Oh, right.
That is run mainly by the students.
Mhm.
But over the summer months, you will see alums, or even like over Christmas time, see alums coming back
It's awesome.
to sort of reconnect, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so shout out. Let's talk about your family. I know you have kids, so if they're like watching this or listening to this, we cannot not let them. So tell me about the force behind Bill Gennaro, because I'm sure there's a wife who puts up with you giving so much to this place.
I say all the time, whether it's in a Kairos speech or in the graduation speech, there was no me here as a coach. There is no me here as an administrator without my wife, Kristen.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole lot that goes into this. And thank goodness for that paper calendar that sits on the wall that we go through quarter by quarter, and the last minute changes and adjustments that need to be made. So we're coming up on our 10th anniversary.
Oh, gosh, great.
So she's kind of stuck with me through all that we've gone through, which has been great.
So how did you two meet? Where did you meet her?
I met her through a mutual friend.
Okay.
So a friend of mine who went to Mary Mercy. And then we were friends with in high school. And then again, that large group of friends that I had that continued, whether it be in places up here, down the Jersey Shore,
Yeah.
like that. So that's how I met her. She attended Loyola.
Okay.
With her in Maryland.
Oh, another Jesuit school,
Yep.
right? Yeah, there you go. Okay,
So,
well, that's good. And you have kids?
Yep. So my daughter Caroline is 7 and heading into 2nd grade. My son Sean is 4, heading into pre-K 4, and then the youngest Brendan is 2. Caroline and Sean both attend Brendan attends the Malvern School in Paoli, and Caroline and Sean attend St. Pat's in Malvern.
Nice. Patty O'Donnell was a guest. She's the next airing, so she has been a guest. She runs a St. Patrick's in Malvern is wonderful, and it's so funny. Not funny. I always say that word. It's not funny. I guess ironic. I don't know. Whatever it is. That I feel like you and Patty are so on the same wavelength with inclusion. Like she is really, we talked so much about that in our podcast about inclusion and how prevalent, and that's like her baby, like that's her thing. And I feel like that, yeah, it's great that your kids are going there.
Just in general, that school itself, I think it's that idea of that close-knit community.
Yeah.
It's a school that is the right size. I mean, I can't tell you what the exact size on the top is, but like they fit into that building and the new early childhood part of the building, Guardian Angel Hall, perfectly. And again, when I use my kids as the example, right? They get up almost every morning looking forward to going to school there. Anytime I offer them to come up here, they're always looking forward to coming here.
Yeah.
That's why when I tell parents, when you're looking for the school that's right for your child, it needs to be the place that they're looking forward to going to.
Yeah.
So no, they love it over there.
And I think that so much of that comes through good leadership. I think that good leadership is something that is so important. And I really believe that St. Pat's in Malvern has that, and Carroll has that. And even like Dr. McLaughlin at my office has that, because I feel the same way as like an old lady. I'm 55 years old. I love my job and I love going to work. Like, it doesn't really ever change. And there were times that I had places that I didn't, there were times where I was like, this is not doing it for me today.
When I feel like sometimes, because I work in a field that like any of like my kids' friends' families can relate to, right? Like my wife works in finance at Comcast, and I can't tell you exactly what she does. I just know a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of slide decks.
Right.
But anybody can ask questions about a school because they have a kid that's gone through the school. And a lot of times I just tell people that, like, and I believe this a lot, no matter what your field is, like, if more often than not, you're looking forward to coming back the next day after you leave, then you're probably in a good place.
Yeah.
All those other decisions ultimately have to be made when you're talking about a family and family life and that balance, right? But if you're looking forward to coming back most days, because it's not always going to be the same, then you're probably in good shape.
Yeah. Amen. All right. So you ready for the Holy Hot Seat?
Sounds good.
All right. So the Holy Hot Seat is like some rapid fire questions, not a lot of thought involved in this, kind of the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. So what's your go-to comfort food?
I mean, it kind of depends, right? I'm either going with some sort of wings or a salad from a pizza place around the corner from us.
Okay.
You
want to plug the pizza place? You can if you want.
Dennis Pizza in Malvern, Pennsylvania. It's a great job. Or if you really, really need something, I'm going to go with General Tso's Chicken Chinese food.
Oh, okay. All right. If you could have any saint as a guest speaker at a school assembly, who would it be?
I mean, we've done a lot of work about people that might be saints eventually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so whether we're talking about someone from around the corner, their namesake was on the school of Mother Frances Cabrini.
Mm-hmm.
Could be one there. We've done a lot of talk with Father Bill Atkinson.
Yeah,
we've got teachers here that worked with Father Bill when he was at Bonner Prendy.
So cool. So Father DeLacy and I talked about him for like 15 minutes yesterday.
I think two people like that. I mean, even Blessed Carlo, who's going to be a saint in a month or so.
September 7th.
Would really relate with our students. So I think things like that, they have a good knowledge about. I mean, anytime you do an assembly, you're always looking for something the kids are going to pay attention to.
Yes.
So find me something that's local, find me something that has a connection to them, and let's go.
Yep. Well, that's good. What's the most memorable St. Joe's prep memory that you have?
I don't know. I mean, I'll probably go back to my athletic time there, right? I mean, our football team, by the time we were done, it's not the same powerhouse as it is now, but we finished after my senior year, we had won 35 games in a row, and we were number 3 in the country according to USA Today. Mm-hmm. So it's either that or being lucky enough to being able to play football and then row on the crew team for all 4 years there. Two of the most demanding sports.
So you played football for 4 years and rowed for 4 years. Yep. Oh my gosh, that's like unheard of now. I know you.
And I don't know that. I think when I was there were 2 of us that started doing it, and one of us bailed after 2 years and just stuck with rowing. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those things that, like, both coaches I really wanted to work for and play for, but both coaches really wanted me to do just their own thing. And I found a way to make it work, and it's something I pass along to the kids here. Like, if you can find a way to do multiple things and be successful in it, do it.
I know. My older son played 3 sports his senior year in high school, and I mean, that was like a lot. It was a lot psychologically. It was a lot like as a parent. But I said to him, I footed the bill because he couldn't work. Mm-hmm. Like, he couldn't get a part-time job. So he wanted to go out on the week. Can I have $10? Can I have $10? Yeah, I was like his personal ATM, which I still am. But because I think that really is important. And we're losing that. Mm-hmm. I'm a coach at heart too. And that we are losing that. Yeah. And when you talk to other coaches, like professional coaches and high D1 coaches, they love athletes that have played multiple sports, but our athletic system is not conducive anymore to multiple sports. And it's kind of like We got to get back to that somehow.
Our big challenge here now is how do we allow them to do those sports, but also still involve in other things that aren't athletic?
Yes,
right. So the other thing at St. Joe's Prep was I was one of the first student groups to start their overnight freshman retreat. And that was something that we did as a senior. And I don't know if I could have pulled that off as a freshman, sophomore, or junior.
Right.
The timing of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, coffee or tea?
Neither.
I
mean, if I'm going,
what is it? What's the go-to beverage?
I will drink tea, and that is fine. And that's usually when I'm sick. Little too much soda for my.
Oh, you're a soda guy.
Kind of where I'll go.
That's
Try to switch over to seltzers for now.
Oh yeah, there's a seltzer right there.
Trying to switch over to some of that.
It looks good on camera.
To get some of that.
It's like the soda can somewhere else in here. What's the soda?
No, usually it's either going to be cherry Coke or it's going to be a fountain soda from McDonald's.
Oh yes, fountains. I'm not a big soda person at all, but if there's a soda, it's got to be out of a gun or a fountain. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. What's the last book that you read that really inspired you?
So for me, it was probably going to be, somehow I got to finish reading it on the plane back from a family vacation, which is a feat in itself with 3 little kids.
Yeah, right.
It was called How's the Culture in Your Kingdom by Dan Cockrell.
Oh, nice.
I am a Disney nerd at heart, and everything from the Disney parks kind of fascinates me. And I love all of it. And I've kind of turned my kids onto that. So, but like
that's an expensive turn on.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But Dan Cockrell worked him and his dad Lee worked down there for years in different forms of Walt Disney and their entertainment. So just listening to some of the strategies that they put forth in some of his stories just really gives you perspective on what you're doing and how you can draw and connect it to your own life.
Yeah, exactly. Culture is so important. Yeah, it really is. It's everything. And the culture here is phenomenal. You can feel it. I know it. Okay. Favorite Catholic hymn?
Oh, God Beyond All Praising.
Really?
Yes.
All right. That's a new one from the podcast.
There's something to me about a really great opening and closing hymn.
Yeah.
That can either send you into the mass feeling good or send you on your way feeling great.
Yeah. So where is that traditionally? Because I don't think I know that one. I might know if I heard it. Opening. Okay.
For a while, it was the opening for the Archdiocesan Honors Convocation, and we used it here. And then I forget the classical piece that it's backed off of, that it comes from. But again, having little kids, they watch Bluey all the time. And there's an entire episode where the one little dog Bingo is in his dream. And at the end of the dream, that song starts playing.
Really?
I'm in the other room and I just hear it. I'm like, wait a minute. And again, I use it as part of a graduation speech. At the end of it, Bingo says, like, I have to go. I am a big girl now. It's the idea of like having to be a bigger kid.
Oh my gosh, I would cry. I think if I heard that at graduation. Yes. Yeah, I love it. We'll link it in the show notes so everybody can have the opportunity. Philly sports fan. I know you're a Philly sports fan. Which team? One team out of all of them.
Because of where my kids' like fanaticism lies right now, currently it's going to be the Phillies.
Okay.
I mean, I was fortunate enough to be traveling with our cheerleaders down in Orlando over the Super Bowl last year. And I have pictures of in Magic Kingdom with Jalen Hurts coming by on his I'm going to Disney World parade afterwards.
How awesome is that?
But my son and daughter are huge baseball fans.
Oh, that must be so fun though, because that's awesome that they are. And that's so cool. And they won last night 13-0, which was impressive. Since what they did the past 2 nights before that was terrible. Okay. What's one quirky habit that your staff or your students will tease you about? You have one?
My staff will tease me about one specific instance. I'm not great at math.
Oh,
and I once tried to like add up percentages in front of the students and I fell 10% short. So they will constantly tease me about that, and I'm okay, and I will own that.
Well, you're an English guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We can't add. I'm an English person too. We can't.
I think the other thing is I'm very quick on my feet. I've always been someone that as a walker is very fast. If you ever saw me down at the river trying to get from finish line to starting line, I kind of leave everyone in the dust to just move at my own pace. And like I can do that here, and with the way the building is set up, a kid walks one way and I'm in the hallway before they get around to the other side.
That's good. That's a good power to have, especially in this place.
Yes.
Because you can, it's hard to go from fourth floor and you call it east and west now. We used to call it boys and girls, but I still don't know the east and the west, and I probably
Kids refer to it as numbers, odds and evens now.
Okay, all right. Well, that I know. Okay, that I got, because the girls is the evens and the boys was the odds. Okay, all right. Well, I like that much better. Okay, if you could swap jobs with someone here at Carroll for a day, who would it be? It
would probably be one of two people. I have a great, I like playing around with data and things like that. So doing something in admissions and reviewing applications and doing things like that,
Okay.
I think would be enjoyable. Or my initial degree was in communications. So doing something within there, I think.
Okay.
I try and keep a hand in that a little bit as I go.
Yes, I can totally see that. All right. And if you could have any superpower to help your job as a principal be easier, what would it be?
Pretty sure it's from the second Harry Potter movie, but it's the time turner that Hermione Granger uses that makes her be in multiple places at once.
There you go.
There are certain days that I would definitely use and need that.
Yes. Well, thank God you don't have that, because then your life would be so much harder than it already is. Okay. Do you have a favorite children's book? It wasn't on the list, but I forgot to put it on there. I always say this to people.
Yes. And gosh, what is the
I know I didn't prepare you. I'm sorry.
My 2-year-old just refers to it as the Hat book.
Hat book.
And I think it's won a Caldecott medal. I think it's like where is my hat, or I love my hat.
Okay.
But it's about a bear looking for his hat, and asking these different animals, have you seen my hat? Have you seen my hat? And eventually in the process, the rabbit is wearing his hat and he realizes it and goes back.
Okay.
I won't say where the rabbit goes, but the bear does not end the book hungry.
Oh gosh!
So it's a great little twist for an adult, but it's a really good book.
All
It's
right.
short and it's easy. My son loves it.
All right, we'll figure out the name and link it in the notes. Okay, last Holy Hot Seat question: where's your favorite cheesesteak place?
If it's still open, well, it was one of two, because I don't know which one still exists, but the first one would have to be, from my growing up, would have been Bacella's Deli.
It is still open.
Right there on Eagle Road.
Had I known, I would have brought you a cheesesteak. Yep, it's still there.
And then growing up, eventually, the place we went after every football camp was Mama's in Bala Cynwyd.
Oh, okay.
So that is a little bit past all the ones right there by St. Joe's University.
Yes.
But
we had a Larry's. Somebody said Larry's
But
the other day.
Mama's and Bacella's both have the size aspect of it where you could get the cheesesteak and a handful of rolls and still feed a family of 4.
Yes, that is definitely true. I always say that about Bacella's because I still do that. Okay, signature last question. If you could whisper one piece of advice to every Catholic educator before they step into their classrooms each day that would help them shape future saints, what would that advice be?
It's a good one. So if you're teaching, right, I'm saying
one Catholic educator, shape future saints.
I'd say before you go in each classroom, take a deep breath. And remember, at some point in time, you were in their shoes.
That's a good one. I like that. It's funny. I've done several podcasts now, and not one person has given the same advice, but every piece of advice has been something that every single person that listens to this will be able to use. Yeah. Well, that kind of wraps it up. Is there anybody else you want to give a shout out to? I don't want to, anything else that you need to say? Like, is anybody going to be like, oh, you didn't talk to me? You didn't talk about me on the podcast? I'm sure there's going to be 50 people that say that.
No, I think I'm grateful for the job that I have here. Like I said, I'm grateful for a family that helps support it. I'm grateful for parents and siblings that have sort of helped me grow in my faith in different aspects, and to work here with a fantastic boss and Dr. Scott and administration here. And then when you get up to the Office of Catholic Education, people that just support our goals and what we're trying to do and help our students.
Yeah. Well, as a former, as an alum of this school, I can confidently, honestly say that I think that the future of Carroll is bright and it is in good hands. And I really believe that God has put you exactly where he wants your feet planted. And I hope you never leave Carroll, because sometimes I feel like, we take the good ones and we put them somewhere else. But I hope that never happens. And I do hope that in 20 years, the person that takes over the Graces of Catholic Education podcast puts you on as a Philly faith legend, because I really do believe that you're doing a great job.
Excellent.
So I thank you for that. Okay, so I wrap it up with a little prayer. To all our faithful listeners, may God's grace fill you with the courage to stay faithful, to stay fearless, and as always, stay Philly. Thank you. God bless, and we'll see you on the next podcast. And that wraps up another inspiring episode of the Graces of Catholic Education podcast. I'm especially proud to see Bill Gennaro doing such an incredible job in my alma mater, Archbishop Carroll, leading with faith, compassion, and a commitment to every student. May his story remind us all that when we lead with heart and purpose and we keep saying yes, remarkable things happen. So, to all our faithful listeners, may God's grace fill you with the courage to stay faithful, to stay fearless, and as always, stay Philly. God bless. See you on the next podcast.